how the things were going to go. So.
How are you? Good, how are you? Welcome, we're glad we had such a good turnout today. This is fabulous. I think we're going to start off with some quick introductions around the room to let us know kind of who you are, who you're affiliated or associated with and representing here at the Alliance. My name is Colleen Batchelor, and I'm one of the co-chairs, and I work for the Resource Exchange, working with children and other individuals with intellectual or developmental disabilities.
I'm Diane Price. I am the other co-chair. I'm the CEO of Early Connections Learning Centers.
I'm Deanne Kitcherell, and I'm representing Aspen Point.
Janina Brown, Director's Coach, Alliance for Kids.
Jackie Florendo, Alliance for Kids.
Kathy Thayer, Catholic Charities of Central Colorado.
Mary Sullivan with Pikes Peak Community College and College of Education.
Christina Hunt with Pikes Peak United Way. Renee McLaughlin with IRA Child Care Licensing.
Tian Roderick with Maternal Child Health Program at El Paso County Public Health.
Becky Hughey with Safe Care Colorado, Lutheran Family Services.
I'm Tiffany Piper. I'm representing Diakonia.
I'm Susan Seldenbridge from Rockerman Christian Preschool.
I'm Alicia Giovanti from CPCD Head Start.
Jennifer Colerup, Alliance for Kids.
Patty Lindell, Alliance for Kids.
And David Block with Joint Initiatives, and I am, as I've been told, the new Kathy.
And Heather Huffman, Alliance for Kids and Joint Initiatives, and I do research and evaluation.
Bill Jager with the Colorado Children's Campaign.
On my turn, Amy Lindquist, I'm a parent.
Dana Scarborough with Alliance for Kids, Family Support and Education.
I'm Nancy Green. I'm with DentaQuest.
Erica Sincata, part of Family Speak at Alliance for Kids.
I'm Sandy Questle, and I've trained for parents through Alliance for Kids, and I'm also on the board and for Joint Initiatives and a Family Heart.
I'm Brian Wright, Creative Kids College.
Erica Evans, Alliance for Kids Professional Development.
Linda Meredith, CPCD, Giving Children a Head Start.
And Shelley Edelman from Ellicott Preschool.
Irma Williams, Little Tikes Learning Center.
Veronica Clayton, Creekside Kids and co-chair for Learning and Development.
Jackie Gooden, Princeton Academy.
Nancy Madej, Pikes Peak Library District.
John Spears, Pikes Peak Library District.
He's my director.
I'm Ross Beal with Peak Military Care Network.
Kelly Bertano, Alliance for Kids.
Maureen Smith, Creative Kids College.
Terrence Smith, Creative Kids College.
Emily Mayuro, Cultural Wellness and Preschool. Lucy Walters, Early Connections.
Super, thank you. Do we have any updates from any active representatives here today, organizations or partners in the community?
Is this one doing supplemental?
Sure.
Okay. So I have an update. Imagine that, you guys. Jackie asked me if I'd do a quick update. First of all, thank you all who voted to allow us to reach out and do some advocacy around the supplemental funding bill for CCAP. We appreciate your support in that. I reached out on behalf of the Alliance for Kids and really the provider community about the CCAP supplemental funding bill. The Howard Department of Human Services had put in a supplemental funding bill in November for it was for $14 million, and that money would have been retroactive to January 1. It would have made counties whole in terms of overspending, and in November, I think there were 9 counties that had waiting lists. It would have funded those children on the waiting list. We are currently, I think, 12. We were at 13, but I think Adams went off, so we're at 12 counties right now on the waiting list. That funding would have also put an additional $22 million into the allocation for CCAP for the 2018-2019 fiscal year, and then put $10 million in for the 2019-2020. So we represented, I represented on behalf of us, the concern about the CCAP funding, and particularly about wait lists in terms of what that meant for children and families in a 2-generation approach. That families needed to work, parents needed to work, and CCAP allows families to work. Children need high-quality services in order for them to reach their highest level of school readiness. And so when we create wait lists, we are jeopardizing in 2 ways. We jeopardize the opportunity for children to have quality learning experience, but we're also putting parents in a situation that could do one of two things, or both things. It could put children at risk in terms of choosing some place that may or may not be the best place for their child, but allows them to continue working, or to quit a job, which then could begin to affect child welfare, or it could begin to affect TANF. So I also, the way this funding bill, I may have said this, did I say 10 million for the second year? Okay. So we were also concerned, I did a lot of work with Julie Crow and Jackie on this. So Julie Crow is the director of the Department of Human Services locally. And also our other concern was ratcheting down to 10 million, then the second year didn't make good sense to us. That if we needed if we needed to add 20 million, why would we need less the next year if our efforts around our state are improving quality and getting more centers rated and getting more children into the program. So the supplemental funding bill was set to be heard, I think, on the 23rd, and was pushed over to the 29th. It was not heard on the 29th, there wasn't a quorum, it was heard on the 30th. At that time, the policy analyst for the Joint Budget Committee came in with a different proposal, and that proposed $7 million for funding for just this interim, just to fund the current shortfall, which is half of what we needed. That is what the JBC voted on, to fund the $7 million. The governor did a comeback for the next day, which was presented again to the JBC on the 31st, asking, thank you for the $7 million, we appreciate it, but we need 20. We need 20, is that right?
We need a lot.
Yeah, we need a lot. Look at the bill, we need a lot, we were struggling, we need a lot. That was not, the comeback bill was not. So we did receive about $7 million in supplemental funding from the Joint Budget Committee. In El Paso County, that will mean just a little less than $1 million to fund the shortfall in El Paso County. We currently are projecting a $2.25 million shortfall in CCAP and a $5.5 million shortfall in child welfare. El Paso County's TANF reserves are 4.6. So there's not enough money to balance that, and child welfare is mandatory. So there are concerns. At this point, Julie hasn't said, my sense is we're not lifting the wait list. They may get shorter, we may have less time on them. What we had as of the end of January, we had 80 children on the wait list here in the county. We have about 3,200 children on CCAP as of December. We typically enroll about 60 to 80 families a month, and so we had about 80 on the wait list in January. So I don't know if maybe you're experiencing this. We did, Early Connection shot some information out to Alliance for Kids to sort of get you some FYI for your families. We really rallied the troops around this and are doing a lot of very intentional work with our parents around keeping their subsidy, not getting lax, not making sure address changes. That's the one thing that will pick them up. Everything is done through DHS with snail mail. So if it comes back, they're off if they haven't notified of an address change. So I think if there's anything you can do with families is make sure they keep their caseworkers updated. We've been fortunate, Early Connection so far, by mid-February we haven't lost any of our families. We see about 29 or 30 families a month that are reapplying. So it's a lot of hard work, but I think it helps those families to do that. I think Bill's going to talk a little bit more about upcoming legislation, but what we learned from this, or one of the things we learned, is I had the opportunity to talk with the policy analyst, Vance Roper. And he does have a bigger vision for CCAP. Thank goodness someone says us has a bigger vision for CCAP. He knows there needs to be more money. He believes that we need to be thinking about general fund. We need to be looking at the CCDBG and all the money we fund through that, licensing, councils, all the work that we do through that, because that's less money for direct services. So he is, and in our conversation that we had back in toward the end of January, he did say that he wanted to do some interim work, which would be summer work, to take a look at the allocation process for CCAP, take a look at House Bill 1317, the impact, the evaluation on 1317, some other things. I think he wants to do a deeper dive. I think he recognizes this is my own term, but we've been kicking the can down the road for a long time on child care subsidy, and we've been depending as a state on TANF reserves, and those will go away, and we will still have young children. And so we will still have this issue around supporting our youngest children, our most vulnerable population, in child care subsidy, and we may not have those TANF reserves. So we'll keep you informed, and I think Bill's going to touch on a little bit of that today. We're staying involved and continuing to talk to Julie and continuing to talk to some people in Denver about this, and so we'll keep you informed as much as we know, but that's where we stand right now on the supplemental funding bill. Yes?
Hi, I just have 2 questions. First, did you say there were 80 families on the CCAP waitlist right now?
Correct. Julie, there was one article in the Gazette, and then there was another article that was in the Gazette right around the last week of January, before the 30th. So that week before, and she is interviewed again, and she then said there were 80 families that were on the wait list at that time. So that would have been since we started the wait list in January 1.
And is there any new information about the education qualification for being eligible for CCAP if you're in school?
The way 1317 was written is that that was based on, if families already are in an education program, they aren't losing it in El Paso County. But that was one of the parts of 1317 that was written as funding is available. There was a term in the legislation in 1317 as funding is available. That was one of them. So any county could begin to try to adjust their budget allocation by looking at as funds are available or as allocation is available. And that was one that our county did, and with wait lists, there's no way that's coming back at this point, from what I've heard. And Jackie and I are both on the CCAP rule rewrite committee, and we've been having a lot of conversations about this, and all counties are looking at as funding is available in terms of what they can do.
Just to, before we go on with more questions, can you hear me okay? Is that okay? We're excited to announce recording our council meetings, and these will be linked on our Alliance for Kids website. And so for those that can't make a meeting, and you're going to, per our MOU with you, we're asking you to participate in half of these on an annual basis. So you can go back and watch it and participate and give us feedback. So we also know that we need this to help with the recording, so I'm going to get ready to, no worries, I'm going to hand it to Diane and Colleen and go from there. So just an FYI, everybody, we are recording this. If you have any questions or concerns, let us know.
You don't want that recorded. You didn't want that recorded anyway, did you? That other stuff. One other announcement. So probably most of you saw, or many of you saw, the announcement that came from the Department of Human Services about grants that were available through funding from the Rose Community, Gary and Buell, for community projects around recruitment, retention, and compensation. And so we had gotten Jackie had gotten a couple calls from folks that were asking about that. Kelly has been out in the centers, and directors have been asking about that. We do have a huge concern, as does the industry, but in El Paso County, around turnover, recruitment, retention, all the things, and certainly compensation. A few of us met yesterday, David and Jackie and Kelly, and then I was there, and I had someone from my community engagement department in case we decided we needed help writing the grant. And then Noreen was there, and we had someone from, Colleen wasn't able to make it, a couple of the executive committee members were not able to make it. We talked for 2 hours about this opportunity, and we came to the conclusion that we just don't think that we are ready. We don't think we, first of all, have the capacity to pull something off at this point. We don't have a lot of good data. We have a lot of anecdotal data, but we don't have a lot of good data. We also don't really have the engagement that there are components of the RFP that are required. And there are some things in there that are required for us to have that we just don't have in place. And there's a very short turnaround on this. There's a webinar tomorrow, Friday. Then there's you have to do a letter of interest, and then the grants are due in March, in the middle of March, which might as well be tomorrow when you're writing a big grant. These grants were for a maximum of $250,000. So we just didn't feel that we had the capacity in our community to do this. It really is not an individual organization grant. It was really around a partnership and a collaborative around taking a look at something innovative in the community. We're not giving up. These are 3 years. We don't know if they'll bring in additional groups in the second or third year, if they'll continue to fund the ones they funded. There's $600,000 available in the first year, so I don't think a lot of things are going to get funded. But we're going to continue to work on this. We're going to have these conversations at committee levels and in some ad hoc work groups about how do we begin to address some of the mandates. And the biggest one is a champion for early care and education, a community champion, a business champion. We really haven't been able to identify that. We've tried in our community, we haven't really done that yet. So for us to say we have someone that we can identify as a champion, and that champion will then help take our innovative project to sustainability, and we didn't have that. We were concerned about that. So that is the status of this. If you have sidebar conversation or questions about this, I'm happy to answer any questions. Jackie's here, we're happy to answer any questions you might have about this. What are some of our hopes for the future, but at this point we just don't think we're ready for this particular project coming from the state.
I had a quick question.
Yes.
But it was about CCAP families and the education portion. Can you please clarify what you were saying toward the end? Are they going away with the project of the families who go to school? Or because one of my parents just received a letter this week, and she came into my office and said she has until March on her CCAP because they're not going to pay for her to go to school anymore.
So there were lots of pieces of House Bill 1317 that changed rules or the way CCAP would operate in the state of Colorado. Help me on this. One of those was paying for parents to go to school and using subsidy dollars for them to do that. But that particular piece of the legislation said as allocation is available. So what that meant was if I was on the subsidy program and I was in my eligibility period within my 12 months and I was going to school, I wasn't going to, in El Paso County when this happened, I wasn't going to lose my eligibility, I could continue that. But when I came up for renewal, or if I was brand new coming in and saying I was going to school, they were not going to fund that. That's the letter that we all received in March. So that has not been changed in the current what's going on in terms of what's happening between now and June 30. So the county in all likelihood will get the same allocation that it's getting right now unless something goes through this legislature that puts more money into subsidy programs. And if that's the case, then they might get a larger allocation. But that's one of the places that counties have the ability to adjust to balance their budget. So remember they used to adjust by moving eligibility, like from the floor of eligibility. So now it's statewide 165. They used to, maybe drop it to 130, go up to 185, go down to 150. So, and then the other thing they would do from time to time is adjust our rates and how much we were receiving. And so when they were running out of money, they might have called and said, gee, you were getting, I'm making this up, but you might be getting 100, now you're getting 75. It was running out of money, which was difficult for us as providers to budget and be able to serve. So those things went into 1317. Tiered reimbursement is a requirement in 1317. That's not subject to available appropriations. That's what it says. Subject to available appropriations. I knew it'd come to me at some point. So some things will not change because of 1317. Some may change. Counties may be able to do something differently. There's also, additional conversation in the rule writing committee about some things and how can we make some adjustments to make this easier. Or it's, if you think CCAP is difficult from your end, sit at a rule writing table. I swear to God, I know how these people do it. I mean, it's as the county. Several times I've heard a county administrator, the gal from Denver who's pretty vocal, say, why don't we all just have the same rules in the whole state? That's like anarchy in El Paso County. We would follow someone else's rules,
Right.
So local control comes into it too.
Okay, thank you.
Any other updates? How about any success stories somebody wants to share about their experiences either working with children, with families, with your staff? Pressure you with silence. All right, the next on our agenda is the consent agenda. You have copies of both the fiscal report and the minutes. Typically with consent agenda items, we review those and vote without presentation. So I want to see if there are any questions on any of the items on the consent agenda before we take a vote. Seeing no questions, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. In a second? Linda, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Super, thank you. All right, Alliance for Kids Coordinator report and updates.
So we had some great updates, Diane.
Okay, so great updates from Diane. I really thank her for expertise. We're really fortunate to have her here and really be in the weeds and provide that information for us. So in lieu of time, we have our 10-minute presentation on the second quarter, and we're so excited that Bill is here to share with us the pending legislation for children and families. So I'm not going to share anything additional. Do you have any questions with the report that you see that we've provided? And I really do encourage you to read that. It really gives you an update about our committee work, the other things going on. Are there any questions or comments? You will note that the Learning and Development Committee meeting is spending a lot of time on the workforce right now. So if you have a passion about that and want to be a part of that, we would love to have you there. You'll see the Family Speak has a lot of good work going on with there, as well as their new website. And then the Health and Wellbeing is really digging into the weeds on the ACES and how does that look in our community and what can we help in regards to implementing it. What does the work look like on that? So please come join us. We have information on our website on how you can be a part of that. Okay. I do want to say one other thing we hope and we'll remind you before the end. So we have our open house across the street. Alliance for Kids now is all together. We're all together now. We've been separated for like 2 years in different places, and so I see a couple people used to work with us. And I hope you come over and see our new facility. We have food, lots of food. That's why we gave you just a little bit right here, so we'll get you across the street. And we just want to, we have lots of things set up. We have PDIS information. We have registrations for our blast. And so please walk over when we're done. We can have more one-on-one conversations, and we would love to host you. So, and I do want to thank our staff. They just did a fantastic job in moving, and you should have seen us putting together dividers, and with Mia and Mary, and we had some really, really special staff that really stepped up and helped us with that. So, our team, what a great team. All right, I think we're good.
So for the next, I'll call up Heather to start the report for us, but I'll point you to the final page in your packet that really gives you the strategic plan goals that she'll be reporting on in this quarterly report. No?
Actually, it's not me.
Oh, okay.
We're having the specialists from each of the different projects presenting their own. Kelly is first.
We have the PowerPoint coming up first.
Hello, everybody. We're going to just be presenting on Goal 1, which really dives into increasing access to high-quality early care and education. Good luck reading it. And now I don't know what I'm saying. So, I'm going to hand it over to Veronica, the co-chair of the Learning and Development Committee.
Are you okay? No, I'm okay. I can see. So I'm just going to provide a quick update because we only have a couple of minutes for this. I'm going to scoot back if any of you guys are visual people and need to see that. So just some updates on Goal 1. So it's the Alliance for Kids will increase access to high-quality early care and education services and resources that promote children's healthy development and school readiness. Whew, that was one breath. I'm tired now. Okay, so there are the highlights over on the right. There are 468 sites in El Paso County. This is a decrease of 40 sites, so we're down 8% from our baseline. Of those 468 sites, 112 are high quality, which is a 3% increase, which is really awesome, so we're really on target with that. This includes 68 centers and 44 family child care centers. 64 are rated as high quality, and they accept infants and toddlers, which was a big goal to increase the infant and toddler quality, but it is a decrease of 3% from the baseline. We've got, those centers kind of going. So And then 42 high-quality ECE sites accept infants and toddlers and CCAP, which is a big goal, which is an increase of 16% from the baseline, and or 6 new ECE sites. So that's 25 FCCPs and 17 centers, and the goal is an increase of 10 ECE sites. So we're really on track with that, so excellent. Excellent work, ladies.
Veronica, can I ask a question? I think I've asked this, and I don't know if we have this data. So we decreased by 40 sites. If I remember this, many of those were family child care homes. Do we know how much capacity we lost? I mean, if there were centers, I mean, was it like, because a home is typically a 6+2 license typically, so you've got, 8 kiddos, but you might have a center that has 100. Do we know capacity, or?
We looked into that. We can go through, we'll have to count. We can get that data.
Well, I just
Sugar doesn't disaggregate that for us, correct? Yeah.
Because I think that one of the things, if there's a counter here, if we want to increase infant toddler, and we're closing sites, and if a 6+2 license in a home, they might have 2 infant toddlers. They can have 2 under 2, and then a center might have infant care. So I'm just thinking about not just our center, not just the sites, but the capacity to serve our children and how that correlates to our need. So I was just curious.
Diane,
Yes.
the first I heard a number like you just gave, 3,200 kids are being served by CCAP in El Paso County. I don't know where to access that data, actually. That's the first time I've heard a number like that speaks to what you're saying about the actual number of children.
Okay, well that came from DHS. We called Yesenia Torres.
Right, okay.
We didn't. I mean, we suggested when they wrote the article for the Gazette that they let the Gazette know in the press release how many children we were talking about, and that was the number we got from the Department of Human Services. I think it was 3,268 or something like that. Children that were on CCAP at that point in time.
Okay. And the reason why you won't see that number in here is because that was not specifically part of our strategic plan.
Okay.
To look at that capacity, but I think that's an excellent thing.
It may be something we can look at anecdotally if we look to a point where it's getting harder and harder for us to meet some of our benchmarks, and we're still seeing that number changing and this number getting more difficult. We may need to flip our strategies a bit. We may need to think about what are the strategies we're implementing, because, oops, the whole world has changed.
Just very quickly on Diane's question, I think monthly the state updates on the Colorado Information Marketplace the spreadsheet that can tell you every single licensed location in Colorado, and you can sort by county, and it has license capacity as one of those columns. So you could actually look at the breakdown as you've done here around license type as well as capacity overall to get at that question where fewer sites, what's the commensurate decline in capacity as well.
Thank you. All right, so it looks like we need more data. Okay, and then the additional highlights, there are now 468 ECE sites in El Paso County. This is a wait a minute, did I have that page? I didn't turn the page. I'm repeating myself, apologies. Like, that doesn't match. 16 programs. Oh, this is where there was an error. Did that get changed?
No, that's
Oh,
right.
16 programs, I have that one, have achieved a high quality rating since baseline. So end of the year goal was 20. And then an increase. Okay, I'm just going to read off of here because we're going to have the old one, sorry. So an increase of 214 newly credentialed ECE professionals in PDIS, so that's a 24.5% increase, which I personally feel is huge. And the end of the year goal is 15%, so we've already met our goal. So wonderful job, ladies. An increase of 111 highly qualified ECE professionals in PDIS, which is a 32% increase from baseline. And AFK staff, I know they've had a lot of boots on the ground reaching out to people. They've provided support to 86 early childhood education professionals to increase their credential levels. And of the 1,100 ECE professionals registered in PDIS, 453 or 41% are level 3 through 6.
All right. Good work, everybody. Good job.
So I also sit on the Health and Wellbeing Committee, and I'm going to report on Goal 2. And this is our goal where we are focused on building the capacity of our early care and learning professionals and our community partners in supporting social emotional development in young children, including young children with special needs or disabilities. The activities that we really implement within this goal are our Pyramid Plus activities, so the Pyramid Plus trainings, the implementation sites where we are building coaching capacity using Pyramid Plus to get those sites to fidelity, other community coaching around Pyramid Plus, and then our Early Childhood Mental Health Specialist project through the Department of Human Services grant. So you'll notice here that we have entered our fall data for 70 classrooms through the implementation sites, and 40% of those classrooms have achieved fidelity to the Pyramid Plus approach model. 5 preaching interviews, I don't understand that. So we've done some interviews with our community teachers. And then we have we also have one new implementation site through Early Connections Learning Center Home Network, and they're coaching 1 classroom. 4 teachers are involved with that. We have 9 family child care professionals that are enrolled in the quarterly training on Pyramid Plus topics, and 45 teachers completed the Pyramid Plus approach training in the fall. In the second quarter of Pyramid Plus implementation, 42 teachers completed the 18-session training, and 6 more are enrolled for the training that is ending in February, and our goal for this is 85 for the year. Then out of 960 of those evaluations for trainings, 98% indicated that they had improved their knowledge in this area extensively or moderately, which I think is very significant. And then we had classroom successes and the PDIS benefits of the Pyramid Plus trainings presented at the ECE Directors Roundtable. Presentations at 2 ECE professional meetings are in the process of being planned. Pyramid Plus positive outcomes are posted on the ECLA website and presented at the Civic Canopy Summit that was just this past November, and we had a great representation from El Paso County at that summit. Let's see, and presented at the Results Matter at the Colorado Department of Education as well. We have 42 teachers trained in developmental screening and referral, and 6 more will be trained by the end of February, and we have a goal there of 80. We did get the renewal of our Early Childhood Mental Health Specialist grant through the Department of Human Services. That's been submitted in January. And then we have begun to really embed adverse childhood experiences trainings within the different projects that we're implementing here. And one of the biggest ones most recently is through our Positive Solutions for Families trainings, which are parent trainings to help parents understand how to support their children's social and emotional development. And we will be continuing this expansion of integration of that information.
So for Goal 3, we have a new website. We changed from Parenting Matters to Family Speak. The website, if you're on the Committee for Family Support and Education, you received a link to look at it. It is not formally out there for the public yet. Executive Committee has to give their okay for it. And so we are, as a committee, looking at that and filling in a few blanks that are still missing, but that should be up for everyone, and I look forward to sharing that with you. Angela McKibben has done a tremendous amount of work to ensure that that website looks phenomenal, so I just want to give her credit. She's sitting in the back. Wave at everybody. There have been grant applications submitted to support what we're doing, and we base that on strengthening families and the protective factors. We don't have any updates on those currently at this time, but that is part of our strategic plan, is to financially support the work we do with families. We do have a report. We were able to partner. One of our goals, like we had mentioned, is partnering with businesses to support the work we do with children and families. And unfortunately, Altiris College is in the process of closing. But prior to that, we were able to host a parenting class there. So Sandra Quessel hosted her Pillars for Success class, and she now has a book that goes along with her class. It was a lovely site where they had smart boards, and they fed them one evening. We had thought they were going to do 2, but they've lost their funding like a lot of us have experienced. and aren't going to be able to continue. But it was a great partnership for the one class that she was able to host, and it was a 6-week course. There's one more set of highlights.
The next one.
There you go. Okay. So as was mentioned, there are some Positive Solutions for Families training classes going on right now, and I'm privileged to be co-training with Nicole Donato from TRE at Pikes Peak Christian Church, and they have over 40 participants. It's an amazing class. It's a 6-week course. It's gone 7 weeks because of the ACES training. There are also classes going on at Early Connections and Ruth Washburn, and so this is an amazing class for families, and I'm excited to see the work that's being done in our community around that. The Early Learning Developmental Guidelines, there are videos online now for parents. They're very short, they're about 2 minutes long, and we've been promoting them in the communities. Diakonia was kind enough to let us pilot that program, and their teachers were able to very easily use a tablet, so if you don't have internet access, you can show them a video, allow the parents to watch the video, give them material on where to go and watch more of those videos. They're very brief, they're very family friendly, and it really talks about knowing if your child is on track, depending on the age that they're at, and if they're not, to talk to their teachers, their pediatrician. It's a great resource, and we're going to start promoting that a lot more within the sites that we have partnerships with. Peaceful Households, they are working to collect data for a larger child maltreatment and neglect community-wide strategic plan, and we were able to help them collect some data on this. It should be ready in the next couple of weeks to share with the community. We're hoping to piggyback off of that for our strategic plan to be better informed about what the community says they need. So the information, most of the questions were based on strengthening family approach. It was a lot of questions socially about how you feel about the neighborhoods you live in, and if you feel safe, and if you help others take care of their children. It was a very long questionnaire, very lengthy, and we're anxious to get those results back. Erica Sankata, she has been to the WIC offices at Garden of the Gods, and she's presented there a couple of times with families. We're kind of working through that programming to see what that looks like.